Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Oh my God, we're all here.
Hi.
Matt, Ben, Christy, Alonzo. Sean Baker, one of my favorite directors right now, has a new movie out. And God damn it, I haven't seen it yet, but they have. So they're gonna tell you about the Florida Project.
It's slightly bleaker than Blade Runner. It is set in Orlando. It is the story of basically two moms and their kids, mainly focusing on one, but there's another relationship there that's really interesting. And these are people living on the boundaries of inclusion in society. They are a version of homelessness that really doesn't get talked about in this country, living night to night, week to week in hotels, never certain if they're going to be able to make the rent payment. And the movie, while we learn a lot about the mother, is really the kid's story. A Brooklyn Prince is her name, of this kid. There's some other kids in it, her friends, but it's sort of her story and her really interesting relationship with, in many ways, the worst mother in the history of movies. Here we go.
The man who lives in here gets arrested a lot. These are the rooms we're not supposed to go in. But let's go anyway.
Hey, Lee, we got a situation here. Open up. It's only second week of the summer and there's already been a dead fish in the pool.
We're trying to get it back alive.
And water balloons thrown at tourists.
Boobies! Boobies!
I failed as a mother, Moni.
Yeah, Mom, you're a disgrace.
So what bothered me about this, and the reason why, is that I ended up loving it, but the kids they're terrible. They're not oh, these cute little scamps. They're awful and they're mean and they're disrespectful.
Sometimes.
Most of the time. Overall, they are not good kids. They're bad kids. And I get it.
But
There's an arc.
hilarious.
There are. Yeah, they come around, and then, like, as the movie goes on, either you get used to their sort of their wild insubordination and sense of entitlement, which is odd because they have nothing comparatively.
They're almost feral.
That's right. They're almost feral. That's right. And the mom is the worst mom in the world. So she's horrible. So there's a portion of the movie of like, who am I not even rooting for? I mean, like, I want the state to take this kid, separate these two, because this kid is doomed if she has to be raised by this woman. And then like halfway through, you're like, I think I'm seeing a truly great movie.
I knew from the first shot that I was watching a truly great movie. The first few moments, there's this energy, it's so raw, it's so real. These kids are like hilarious and heartbreaking at the same time. And what I love about Sean Baker, and with this and with Tangerine as well, is that he is looking at people on the fringe, right? They're that close to the American dream of what's exciting and what's glittering and glamorous. Like
because they're literally 100 yards from Disney World.
They're on the edge, these really shitty hotels,
but very much outside the property
of Orlando.
Yeah.
And then Tangerine takes place at the corner of Santa Monica and Highland, which is really not Hollywood. It's not glamorous Hollywood at all. And he humanizes them and does not judge them for the decisions that they make. They make really questionable decisions. Like the mom you're saying is the worst mom in the world. However, there are moments where she's spontaneous and she's loyal and she's fiercely protective and she's connected to her little girl. They're few and far between, but she sometimes is an amazing fun mom. Most of the time she is not, but whatever choice she makes, she is making it to keep this kid alive and to provide some sort of roof over her head, some sort of food in her stomach.
In
the most primal way.
I end up in your camp, and I end up saying, okay, she, I guess, is making most of these decisions for the welfare of her kid, given the incredibly limited circumstances. But it took me some time to recognize that those decisions, while horrible, because I think, look, I don't think the way a kid, I don't think things work out for that kid if she's raised fully by that mom. If those decisions, while understandable and human, if ultimately those decisions keep being made as that kid turns, she's what, like 7?
How would you compare this to Beast of the Southern Wild?
Oh, it's interesting, yeah, because you do have.
Because that's another one where it's like, oh my God, get that kid out of there, even if that kid's like, I love it here.
No, I mean, these kids it's summertime and they're running around unsupervised, and as a parent, I found that kind of horrifying in a lot of ways.
I'm gonna tell you
but also because they become really self-sufficient and they become really street smart, and whatever comes their way, they know how to handle it in a way that like probably most kids don't, for better or for worse.
Right,
yeah.
and there's one of the things I really enjoyed about this movie is having grown up in the suburbs of Kansas City at a time where a couple miles south, there was literally farmland from where I lived. And then would go spend summers with my family in either Mississippi or Louisiana. And there was plenty of that where we just were left unsupervised, in the 70s and could wander around. And so there was a little bit of nostalgia, like, running around, going and looking at the cows and going and like wandering around. I lived in an area where there was a lot of construction. And my brother and I would always talk about like the best places to play as like a 11 or 12-year-old was housing construction. Like that was amazing. Right? Like my friends and I would throw nails at each other.
And these kids spit on cars.
Yeah, like I remember doing stuff like that, and it captures that kind of almost feral quality that like the shenanigans, the craziness that kids get up to that they don't get pushed into like, hijinks. It's like, that's the kind of stuff.
Destructive shit happens.
But also like, you see the redheaded girl that they end up, kind of bringing into the circle and like teach her how to like
from the other motel complex next door.
And teach her how to like, kind of panhandle for money to get ice cream. But the thing where like they get one ice cream cone and they're all sharing it, and it was all like that was these moments of
communism.
I was kind of like, there's this. As much as these kids are mean, there's like this. I don't necessarily want to call it innocence, but there's this bond between them.
Eventually, I came around to that, but still, it's tough because like I get it, and the idea of we've seen it in so many movies and your life. When you go down to Mississippi or Louisiana or any place over the summer or Maine or Texas, and you can run around freely in the summer, but you're not crossing whatever that main drag is in Orlando. Like those kids are.
It was treacherous.
Right. I mean, it was treacherous. They're crossing 6-lane, 8-lane highways.
Right, and then they're playing out front on the yard. That old man comes up, and Willem Dafoe, who I think puts in this great performance, is this guy who's the manager. But he's this de facto like guardian angel of sorts, and he gets fed up, but he keeps cutting them a break. And the stuff that he does to try and when he has the run-in with the other hotel who's not honoring the deal because of the new ownership, and that was a really interesting character for him to play, and how he really is kind of at least as best he can looking out for these kids where he can.
You saw, it's great, the stuff with him was terrific because he's got a balance. We get a little bit of the hotel owner, he's the manager, and they have, and you see that he's working for a guy, and he's got to meet that obligation, so he keeps a pretty good job and also stay loyal. And there's one moment with the mom. How do we say her name?
I'm gonna guess it's Bria
Venite.
This is her first movie ever.
Yeah, she's great. She's so good. But there's a moment where her behavior is outrageous, and finally, even Defoe, her backer, is ready to throw her out of the hotel, and she's she's disrespectful to this guy who has helped her again and again and again, and helped her in a way where there's no expectation on his end. He never hits on her. He never suggests anything. He's just good. And but she pushes him, and then they get into the lobby of the hotel, and he's like, "All right, that's it. I'm throwing you out. If you're not out of here at the count of 3." And you're thinking that he's thinking, "Please leave, so I don't have to throw you out. Please get out of this room by 3, so I don't have to make good on this threat, which I have no desire in any way to go through."
Well, you talk to her like a child. Don't you say like, you have until 3 to do something to your kid? Like she's an overgrown child who's a mom herself.
Yeah.
But one thing I love about this, and this is true in Tangerine, and this is true in American Honey, which you mentioned on the way out of here.
This made me think a lot of American Honey.
It's very similar in that it's squalid and it's raw, but there's sort of like a mystical kind of dreamlike quality about this bubble in which these people all exist. Like it's their version of reality that you would never want to visit, but it has these unexpected moments of joy.
Yeah.
There's this.
And that's true in Tangerine, and that's true in American Honey also.
Yeah, American Honey I think is a little long, and don't see it on an IMAX screen like I had to see it on because it was all handheld cameras and I wanted to kill myself. But that's this movie and American Honey cover a lot of the same territory. I read something, there was a statistic about a shockingly high percentage of people in this country are one paycheck away from not being able to make their rent, right? American Honey and the Florida Project, this covers a section of the populace that is a week away from not being able to make the rent on a weekly basis, right? And it's right on the fringe. And I hate that I sound so elitist when I say that, but there's fascinating stories here, and it is at a meta level almost heartbreaking, almost infuriating that we know that this is a slice of, here I tip into politics, that this is a slice of the country, a slice of our population that lives this way, that doesn't seem to have any other options.
But Sean Baker's never preachy about it.
Right, he's
never
not. And neither is American Honey. Right.
But so when the emotion comes,
right.
Oh my God, is it overwhelming? Because it's been so matter of fact up until that point. And this little girl is such a little badass that no matter what adult she runs into, no matter what situation happens, she's got some smart ass quip. And so when the emotion comes, it's like, oh, good Lord.
And the horror that the other friend has to see when he watches the moms fight.
Yeah. I mean, this is what these kids have to suffer through, what these kids have to endure. And this is they're white here, but this is what white privilege is, right? I mean, it's not just because the one of the key components to white privilege is privilege. We end up focusing on the whiteness of it a lot, but it is never having to worry about this stuff ever. Not for a half a second did any of us sitting at this table ever have to worry that we were a paycheck or two.
But there are white homeless people.
No, so I'm saying that's what I'm saying.
And
so to me, but those white homeless people, these families, they don't have white privilege. That's all I'm saying.
Right. When you talk to them about white privilege,
Okay.
Yeah, they're on the wrong side of white privilege.
We should do numbers.
Yeah, we should do the numbers. But
I do want to point out, I don't know that I like the end.
Okay, that's why. Okay, I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna say this is why I'm giving it a 9.4 because it just ends. Like all of a sudden, it just ends after a really overwhelmingly emotional moment, and then it's just like, and I'm like, oh, and I said to you, wait, is that it?
No, everybody's gonna say, wait, is that it? Yeah, no question.
So
right, but that 30, 40 seconds before the end,
where they go?
Yeah, just that whole thing where the music comes, like that whole bit, like
I'm okay with that. But then it just ends.
I just thought I thought there'd be another decision made there. Obviously,
I thought so.
Real quick, I want to say
about the characters.
If you're interested in this film, if you're interested in Tangerine, Sean Baker has 3 features before Tangerine that are really great: Starlet, Prince of Broadway, and Takeout. Go look for them; they're really great.
Okay, thank you for that PSA. We appreciate it. So 9.4, you're saying what?
I'm gonna say 8.9. Just raise that one. 8.6.
Okay, 8.9. You said 7.5.
Yeah, the ending really bothered me.
Okay. All right. So our number is an 8.6. It's at 96%.
Yeah, it's really good.
I think it's New York and LA this weekend.
I'm seeing it this weekend.
I didn't like all
Please go see it.
I didn't like all the CGI, but other than that.